Good morning, Raymond. Good morning, anymore.
Good morning.
And how are we doing this morning? How's the weekend?
Oh, wonderful, fantastic. I finally got the wonderful opportunity to participate in the wonderful.
You went to watch the play.
Why are you?
No, I just wanted to translate it for people.
Yes.
So
is that what you were going to say?
Which part is unclear in your mind? Yes, please. The sex scandal was phenomenal, and
it was scandalous, wasn't it?
Yes. So it was a fun-packed weekend for me. Yeah.
Awesome. It was quite an eventful weekend for me as well.
don't go there. People will know that.
Let me make a confession.
Yes.
So on Saturday we're going for a funeral of the channel manager for Joy News on Multi TV, her mother, Emily Nyako. Good morning, Emily. It was a great funeral, by the way.
Yes.
The funeral was at Nsawam,
and
for some reason
you ended up at
myself and the two other passengers in the car.
You ended up at Nkoko.
It was at Nkoko.
No.
So we drove to Nkoko, and after the 3-hour journey, the most excruciating moment, after the 3-hour journey, we stayed there. And I check how long it's going to take for us to get to Nsawam, and it's another 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I drove for 5 hours. Drove 3/4 of my fuel tank on Saturday.
Oh,
it was not
I
nice
can identify with your pain.
But
anyway.
but we crowned off the day with the Joy Beach Jam, and that was amazing.
Brilliant, wonderful.
That went really well. So please, attention to detail. That's the lesson of the morning. Attention to detail. Make sure you know where you're going. You know how to get there.
Anyway,
let's look at the front page.
The Daily Graphic is reporting this morning: delivery at prayer camps is causing death of women, babies, and Ameri Rain's Best Emerging Company Award. There's a story about NDC flag bearer aspirants petition Rollins, complain about high filing fees, and publish Brobe report. This is the president's directive to the Ministry of Information. But the most important story in the Daily Graphic is on page 7. It's an article by Dr. H. Sikanku. It's the per second dream. My experience with Mrs. Charlotte S. Echampon.
And that's the most important story.
Yeah, that's the most important. The entire newspaper. If you read that one and you don't read any other thing again, it's perfect.
My apologies to the hard-working editor and journalists working at the Daily Graphic.
Let me finish with my point. It talks about one woman that every per second of my generation knows about. She's an outstanding woman. She teaches English. Like, if people speak English better than the others, you should know that is where the source is supposed to be. And Dennis's could be a younger generation, so they don't know that much. But she and his own experience is about moving from literature to French, and actually having to make all of those changes, and how counseling from this woman made so much change in his life. But this story, you have to read it.
Okay, so get a copy of the Daily Graphic. What page is it?
Page 7.
Page 7. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to find out how Raymond became what he is now. So, I mean, for that reason, you need to read that article. Anyway.
On the front page of the Daily Statesman, NYA begins consultation on national youth policy. Safe Space Foundation fights gender-based violence. Chekimoho Bakben demands HIV test for Mahama himself and others, and Brobe report on new regions will be published.
Now, the New Crusading Guide is reporting this morning: PMMC lies exposed, and the other one is about we will pay Bakben's filing fee. NDC executives. Now, there's a story about Kaswa police crime officers who are being accused of doing some wrongdoing there. But fuel price is also being reduced as Shell. That's what the story is reporting this morning.
On the front page of the Daily Guide, Cath probes HIV blood. Nana orders release of new regions reports. Just 2 years in opposition, NDC is broke as Siedu Nketia hints. Takrade Port new terminal project begins in 2019 and $12 million drone deal signed.
Now, the Gold Street Business is reporting this morning: WAPCO Ghana negotiate lower gas price, and cheaper Sankofa gas becomes available. BOG begins overhaul of microfinance and rural banks. Long overdue. And those are the stories on the front page of the Gold Street Business.
On the front page of the Today, how leading aspirants killed NDC in 2016. We're still not ready to lead. No tin, no car number, and the NDC killer fees, the inside story.
Now, the Chronicle is reporting still on the NDC, and this time it talks about APRO as meeting actually has been done, and the decision has been made to petition the chairman on the National Council of Elders, which is chaired by former President Jerry Rollins, to intervene in this particular matter. There's a story about Asogli Council defending Togbe Afede, also on the front page of the Chronicle. There's a wonderful article from Ebo Kwanzaa on why we need to bite the bullet on electricity tariffs.
On the front page of the Herald, SNIT deletes 6,000 ghost pensioners from payroll. Baba caught among ECG owners. How a sleeping nation freely gave away strategic assets to political cronies. Akufo-Addo tests his popularity with Greater Accra tour. And Northern Regional Sports boss accused of embezzlement.
So, in the interest of releasing the Justice Broberg Commission's report, Ghanaians will vote for Oti region and others on December 27th. That's the referendum required to make sure that we create these 6 new regions after the hurdles have been cleared or virtually cleared in the court of the Republic of Ghana.
On the front page of the Ghanaian Observer, we've been good managers of the economy. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. Governments to publish reports on new regions this week, like Raymond said. Goma Fetestool elders are not land guards, and NPP exposes Asiedun Ketia.
The finder is reporting this morning protest rocks GIJ over no fees, no exams policy, and Kweku Baku is ready for RTI fight. And he says he will suspend his suspension on demonstrations if the thing council. And there's also a report about 4 million Ghana Cedi Fund launched. This is to support fiscally challenged women entrepreneurs. Anyway, those are the stories that Finance reported this morning.
And finally from me, the Ghanaian Times. I'm going to start with the back page. Nigeria triumphs in 2018 Women's AFCON. Congratulations to them. And on the front page, GIJ closed down as students demonstrate. Construction of on-dock facility at Takoradi Port starts in January. That's 2019. Darbon Youth March in support of roadmap, and also the story on the Justice Broberg report as well in the Ghanaian Times.
Raymond, let's talk about it.
Yes, now the DVLA says effective January 2, 2019, only customers who provide the TIN will have, that's a tax identification number, will have their vehicles registered. This forms part of new recommendations and registration procedures which they want to roll out in connection with their electronic registration of vehicles beginning the new year. Now, the authority has also directed vehicle owners who wish to have their vehicles registered in 2019 to begin the process from today. Today is Monday to the 31st. So there's an e-platform which would actually be the source for operating these institutions on this one. Now, customers are also advised to provide a tax identification number, and it's non-negotiable.
Okay.
This is a prerequisite for the registration process, and I'm sure you've seen your own message from your bank telling you so. I saw one last week, just around the time that the month was ending.
Interestingly, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm sending you on your behalf of a bank that you can't access the account without doing so. But to be fair, the GRA boss is saying that since they started this drive from April to last month, they've actually gotten almost 2 million people going for their tax identification number. This is potential taxpayers. Now, it's not the same. It's not to say that when you get a tax identification number, you will automatically be taxed. Those who are being paid less than minimum wage cannot be taxed.
Okay.
So that's one grouping. They are supposed to go for the tax identification number, but they cannot be taxed. The DVLA part is also interesting because this one area of the law reform this year. Check.
Yes.
They have reduced number of time people can get their card, people can register, renew their license, and they are making virtually everything very comfortable for you. In fact, they have a place that I can go and sit down for at least 30 minutes with tea and still get it about a high fee anyway.
And yeah, that's a premium service.
It's not for the,
it's not for the masses.
Yeah, it's not for my people. Anyway, but there's also a part that people are complaining about. How do electric drivers get to participate in this electronic registration? This system is to eliminate the Goro Boys phenomenon. The electric drivers may also have to resort to exalted, what they call Goro Boys, to help them out in this particular case. So I don't know what the alternative resolution will be.
What is happening? You remember last week the controversy about the business registration and people saying that you may not need a TIN, and the clarification. And what is happening is they are going to set up at the Registrar General's department so that if you don't have a TIN there, you can be assisted to get one as part of the business registration process.
You proceed.
I think that would be the best thing. You see, the mindset really should be service. Let's front load helping people to get on this system so that when we are all there, then we can begin to enforce. Enforcement is not being discounted totally, but let's begin with service in mind, so that if at DVLA you go there and there's someone to help you get a TIN, then we know that by all means whoever goes there can get one, rather than people going there being turned away and being tempted to get their licenses, their car numbers through other means. Okay, anyone, let's move on and talk about World AIDS Day.
Okay, so December 1st, we know is World AIDS Day, and this year was celebrated in Ho in the Volta region on Saturday. Now, the theme for this year is Know Your Status, but more specifically, test, treat to suppress and stop new HIV infection. So we know that the prevalence of HIV, especially below those below the age of 24, has risen to about 45%, which is really, really terrifying if you think that 45% of people below the age of 24 are HIV positive. In 2016, then there were new HIV cases. That figure rose by 70.15%. We also know that 15,116 people died of related HIV diseases. Now, the CDD has issued a statement, and they are saying that this is mainly due to the upsurge of unprotected sex and poor knowledge about how to avoid catching it, especially among the youth. The president had a speech read for him by Madam Cecilia Dapa at the World AIDS Day celebration, and he was talking about the fact that 78% of men and 52% of women have never tested for HIV/AIDS, and is encouraging people to go for counseling and testing to know their status. This was held in the Volta region. We know that the Volta region has had a pretty high prevalence of HIV, but there's been a marginal drop from 2.7% to 2.3%, especially among pregnant women and those who just had children. So really this year it's about awareness, it's about knowing your status, and Alban Bakben has been speaking as well about knowing your status. He's saying that everybody who wants to stand as a flag bearer for a political party should be made to undergo compulsory HIV testing for two reasons. One, it will help raise awareness, and two, it will help take the stigma.
So if it turns out positive, what happens?
That's the same thing I was thinking.
No,
but if it does, then in terms of stigma, then that can be addressed.
But that's the real issue, because look, one of the things I was seeing.
Yeah.
No, you see, Raymond. Let me make this point.
Yes, please.
I read the story of Doreen Moracha.
Yes.
This lovely, beautiful woman who has been living with HIV for 26 years. And it's so encouraged me how people, in spite of contracting this disease, do not declare a death sentence for themselves, but go on and live successful, live powerful lives. And one of our guests today on the show is exactly that. She was diagnosed positive, fell in love with a man who is negative after. They got married. They had she already had a child. They're trying to have a child. They're living a regular life. And I think that even though, yes, contracting HIV can be prevented, and we must do as much as possible to prevent it, we must also do as much as possible to get those who contract HIV to live regular lives without the stigma.
I did a test as early as last year, October.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Last year as well.
You?
Yes.
What was it for?
What do you mean? What was it for?
No, what was
it was for marriage. I need that to be clear, Mama. Okay. So yeah. So we're having that guest today on the show. It's gonna be amazing. You want to stay with us for that conversation? You want to take us to GIJ? Okay. Now there was pandemonium yesterday at GIJ campus, which turned somehow violent. The students were not happy with the directives of the school. Now this is students who are prepared to go write exams, but some had as low as 200 cedis difference in the school fees, so they were turned away, and the school had to virtually cancel the day's paper or suspend the day's paper for a different day because the people were not ready to let go of, because in Spain, for which you have really studied for examination, and you've been told that a difference of 200 cedis is the problem. Some of the students are even arguing that the system for registration is where the problem is. Their paid is not reflected yet, so that is a bigger problem to them than having to go through something that's not my fault, and yet I have to stop writing an exam after preparing for it. And both the undergraduate and graduate students had to go through this particular experience on campus. Now there is a bigger conversation that students are talking about. They say right from the beginning they introduced a retake, not a reset plan, which suggested that you have to wait for an entire academic year before you can resit an examination you failed the previous time. They were saying that all schools, most of them have progressed to the point where vacation is sometimes even used before you start a new academic year to clear up all your papers you've not done before. They are insisting that the university's plan is not in the right direction. But GIJ leadership issued a statement this morning saying that one, the school is open this morning, examinations will continue Two, they are giving so many different dates for the students to clear up their debt when it comes to obligations to the school. Some of them have just refused to do so, and they are insisting they'll continue running the school. But there's a time you need to cut the process and proceed with planning for academic year, and also which people can say their examination. This is why they took the decision. They're still open to engage the students and their leadership on the best way forward, and they did not expect that students will conduct the same the way they did over the weekend. They also explained that they had to bring in security to help her because of how the students became agitated, and this is not the best way forward for them. So that's currently what's happening on that campus.
Exactly, and that's one of our big conversations we're having this morning. We're asking a simple question of what's the nature of engagement that the students are having with management, and how is that affecting regular academic work. And this is something that happened in KNUST, because when students have a disagreement with management, it should not bring the whole university or institution to a halt. This could happen in UDS, in UCC, and UG, because anywhere at all.
I think in student activism, the key word we're told is that demonstrations are the last option, the least one. You go through all of the processes. When all hopes fail, then you do a luta.
And sometimes
luta is becoming number 2 this time around.
Sometimes I don't understand the misunderstanding, because I'm reading paragraph 2 of the GIJ management statement, and it says that students who have paid their fees and registered are eligible to take part in exams. These include students who faced challenges with registration online and were assisted by the academic affairs departments to register. However, management is still eager to consider any students who pay the required fees by November 21 and have been unable to register online for any reason. So this is where it begins, where they place the November 21 deadline there. As beyond that, we are not going to register any students. But again, we will be speaking to management, we'll be speaking to the students today on the show, trying to get to the bottom of this issue and ask that big question of how does university management deal with their students. I'm coming back to you, Enuma, to ask how a court is dealing with a pastor.
Yes, so Raymond, you know that Hotba Chucho was in November, and then there's a noise ban, the same way there is, when there's Homo War here in Accra, but this was in the Volta region. Now, so there was a noise ban in the Volta region, and the senior pastor of Victory Church International decided that he will defy the ban on noise making. So in spite of the fact that they had said that there should be no noise, he decided to continue to make noise. And so they approached him, talked to him about it. He was summoned to the police station. He was still quite adamant about the fact that he will continue to make noise. And so he's been arraigned before court, and now he's had a change of mind that he will that he will stop making noise. But the thing is, even though he said he'll stop making noise, the ban has been lifted.
Yeah.
So it's kind of after the fact.
Yeah. So going into the future, he'll
stop. So
going
into the future, he'll stop making.
I won't do it.
He'll stop.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of an I won't
He's
do
seeing
it.
jail time possible.
He's seeing possible jail time.
Yes.
I picked the story because of the noises that churches make, and I think it's personal for me because there are 3 churches around my house. So on Sunday morning, I They make so much noise, and the keyboardist is playing in one key, the singers are singing in another key. There's 3 choirs going. That's my.
Is it the noise they are making or the fact that they recorded? But it's interesting because as part of the Church of Pentecost,
so the song is bad.
No, I didn't say the song. I said the keyboardist is playing in one key and the singers are singing in a different key. And it applies to all the 3 churches. So there are 3 different songs going at the same time in 3 Charlie.
If you report this matter to the EPA, do not listen to you on the keyboardist plan.
No, but they make a lot of them. So it's in a classroom. So I don't understand why they need microphones, because it's very, very, very loud. It's very small.
Interestingly, as part of the Church of Pentecost Zoomline environmental campaign, noise pollution is part of it.
I see.
So you now have a church asking people to minimize the noise they make when they are having church services. I think it's a very interesting development that has come out there. But let's talk about the NDC flag bearer aspirants now.
So there's a petition. According to the graphic, 12 out of those contesting, about actually 8 out of the 12 have actually penned their signature to this petition. The claim here is that they are insisting that the filing fees ought to be reduced. They are calling on former President Rawlings, who is the chairman of the National Council of Elders of the party, to intervene. According to Kospio Gabra, there is no way that process should be allowed to continue. But let's be clear, today is the day that they are picking the forms. They have today and tomorrow to pick the forms. When they pick the form from today and tomorrow, they have 10 days to raise the cash, the 400,000 cedis. When you pick the forms, you pay 20,000. After raising the cash in 10 days, within the same 10-day period, they also have to go around the country and get the signatures from 2 from each ward in this case, almost like 154 or so across the country to make sure that they are able to file officially. When they file officially, the processes continue. 19th is where we separate the men from the boys.
19th.
Or we will select the man out of the boys.
19th January.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can't wait for that day. Let's go to CAF now, the Confountry Teaching Hospital.
Yes, so CAF has decided that they're going to set up 120 million endowment fund. They've been waiting for some funding, 120 to 140 million US dollar funding, and it's kind of taking a long time. So they've decided that they're going to set up a fund and try and use the money that they get from taking care of patients to make the hospital better. Now, the CEO has been speaking, and what he's saying is that they started with taking about 100 outpatient cases. Now they're taking about 1,000 outpatient cases.
Okay.
They're doing 9,000 deliveries, 20,000 surgeries annually. And honestly, in the over 53 years that the hospital has been there, it has not had any massive refurbishment or expansion, and so they're going to have to take matters into their own hands and do it themselves.
I am more concerned about the other release we saw from Confountry Teaching Hospital over the weekend concerning this contaminated blood saga, where one Evans Adokwabla posted on Facebook that he went for blood for his family member from CAF, and it was tested negative for HIV at CAF. It was tested positive for HIV at another laboratory. What I am thinking is that when I have a family member who is sick and I go and get blood for her to be for a transfusion, the last thing I'm thinking of is whether I'll get two different results.
The list of your
lab.
concerns should be
That's
that
your
one.
list of my concerns. So what sorts of standards are we maintaining at our various laboratories? You know, and where services are rendered? Why should it be a matter of controversy? Because we know now that a test has been carried out. Our Ohiming was there when the test was being carried out. It came out negative. We'll be speaking to Ohiming today on the show to get to the bottom of this matter. But really, the bigger conversation for us here on the show, and we hope you'll be staying with us for that, is what are the standards we're keeping in our laboratories so that situations like this can come up, because it can be life and death at a point. But anyway, that's coming up later on the Super Morning Show. Right now, we're going for the online news review. It's brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, Goyle Good Energy, and download the Safe Doctor app now from the Google Play. Safe Doctor, the future of better medical care. Now, the rewards are raining at Goyle's Ifie promotions. Do you buy fuel as Goyle? Hurry and do so, because in the month of November alone, 720 of our customers have received their ultimate rewards from your favorite CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year, Goyle. Adepa Ofia Oye. Josh Crying of Franco has received 1,000 cedis worth of fuel on his Go card for the month of November, and a weekend hotel stay for 2. Many others were rewarded with 1,000 cedis worth of fuel for accruing the highest points. So collect your scratch card anytime you buy Goyle fuel, 80 cedis and above. Dial *161 *4645 hash and follow the steps. Your loyalty rewards also await you at the end of the month if you buy more fuel and accrue more points. Goyle Ifie promo runs till January 2019. Terms and conditions apply. Goyle Good Energy, Goyle Genera Yedia. Now, this festive season, Zenith Bank is offering you the opportunity to become part of its wonderful family. Visit any Zenith Bank branch nationwide during the first 2 weeks in December and let our team assist you choose from an array of products and services that definitely cater to your unique banking needs. So tell a friend to tell a friend. Whether you're an individual, an SME, or a corporate entity, at Zenith Bank, there's something for everyone. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. 8 NDC flag bearer aspirants boycott filing process over unreasonable fees. That's what myjoyonline.com says. Government introduces programs to boost capacity of Zongo food sellers and youth. This is the one that was making rounds over the weekend, that Honorable Minister Hamid had said they're going to teach the Zongo women how to make wachi. And it was making such rounds. How can you teach it? But the details were that they were actually going to help people who are already selling wache to better repackage their business. Yes, not to teach them how to make wache from scratch. All right. The BBC.com has an op-ed that you want to read. Letter from Africa. How to get Ghanaians to pay their taxes. And this is coming from, of course, Elizabeth Ohene, who was formerly working at the BBC. So she was a former minister in Ghana as well. And you want to read that one. A very, very interesting read. We're going to take the BBC News at 7. It's coming up after this. There's a lot more coming up on the Super Morning Show. Stay with us.
This was